Good morning. Welcome to Tip Off. A little later launch than usual. My apologies on that. Had some sick kids and some other things to deal with this morning. A few of you have commented that the audio is not high enough. Um, I will see what I can do on that, though. I think if I fiddle too much, it gets too high, as it is doing right now on at least the YouTube version. But keep the feedback coming. I greatly appreciate it, and I will continue to try to do the best I can for you guys. Lots of things to talk about. Jazz lost last night to the Lakers in what was a terrific game. I hope everybody got a chance to catch it. I think that's what we want out of this team. I'm not, we want some wins, but I think that performance is what we want out of this team. They battled. There were a lot of reasons why that game could have gotten away. Al Jefferson's not having a good night. He really just struggles against that size of Bynum and Gasol. We highlighted it all day on Twitter at Locked On Sports. We talked about it all day in the interviews with Al. We looked at it with Ron Boone, and it really became the story again. Is just that matchup just gets Al. Someone who's big and long enough to Al, he cannot dictate where he wants to go, and he has a hard time with the drop step because he doesn't use that left hand. But Millsap was fabulous. The bigger point to me, though, is just that game didn't go the Jazz way. It was a tight, maybe this is who the Jazz are, and that's terrific. Al's not playing great, so you got to gut it out defensively. You battle. You fight. They never allowed a run. That, to me, still is the biggest story of the night. That the Lakers, who put a 23-2 run on the Suns and a 16-1 run on the Suns the night before, and that's how the Lakers have been winning games, never were able to separate from the Jazz. Neither team led that game by more than 6. I mean, at some point when you have 53 minutes of basketball and neither team leads that game by more than 6 at any point, then what you just have is, where one play goes one way or another. And you know what? The fact is that one play may have been the Gasol 3, his 20th of his NBA career, and CJ had a wide open 3 in the third quarter, and it doesn't go. And it's really hard to isolate 2 plays. But frankly, those 2 plays were pretty huge for the Jazz in the way this game swung. Raja was terrific last night. Millsap was really fabulous. Josh Howard played well. And so what you really saw last night, and this is, a lot of people want to see the young kids play, and I do too. But when you go up against Gasol and Bynum and Fisher and World Peace and Kobe, and I hate him too, but damn was he good last night. Your Burks, Hayward, Favors, and Kanter are going to get annihilated. And what Tyrone did last night was make sure that they got their minutes against other guys. And then when Mike Brown went back to his guys, so did Tyrone. And that's where there's a lot of angles on this. But one thing I just point out is where the memo trade was really a great move. One, it gave the Jazz flexibility. But without that memo trade, I will tell you what, you're never going to have seen Kanter on the floor. And I certainly like what I'm seeing. His rebounding rate is out of this world. I just tweeted about it at Locked On Sports that he is right now, and he's got to play a lot more, the highest rebounding rate since a guy named Earl Williams in the 70s. And then Clifford Ray, who was one of my favorites when I was a kid in the early 70s. I don't actually know who Earl Williams is. I'll have to ask Booner. What I would tell you is that's where that trade was really good, because otherwise Kanter's not on the floor. There's just never a time where a coach is going to go to the unpredictable youth over the veterans. And we saw that last night when you needed a game where you would get predictability and knew what you'd get out of your guys. That's what Tyrone went for. He really worked those guys. They have the day off today, no practice at all. They'll practice tomorrow. But the Jazz have made huge strides. They're a far better basketball team than they were when the year started. They may be better than I thought they were going to be this year. I'm still not ready to make the big claim that I hear Harpering's making that this is a playoff team, just because I get very nervous about what Ben Bagley and I often refer to as recency bias, where I just need a body of work. And there's still some areas in the body of work that, to me, have me concerned. Maybe the biggest issue in regards to body of work that has me concerned is how good the rest of the West is. I mean, that's actually maybe the issue that jumps out to me more than anything else, is that, just every night there's another team in the West that's winning a game that I wouldn't anticipate them winning. And so you look around and, Houston's weakness is that Kevin McHale's their head coach, but they've played a really tough schedule. New Orleans is battling, almost took Oklahoma City last night. Sacramento went and got a nice win in Toronto. So I'm just, I think that these teams in the West are top to bottom pretty good. Minnesota's probably is struggling right now, and they should be better than that. So just keep an eye on how good everybody else is playing as well. I mean, as much as I think the Jazz are still, after last night, they sit up there, but if you look up in the standings, you're like, oh, look where we are. But if you look down in the standings, it's all pretty close still. And that's the only reluctancy I have, is that I think I'm very impressed with where the Jazz are, and I love what I'm seeing in regards to them. But I take the next step to look at, say, okay, well, Phoenix has won some big games. Sacramento, with a new coach, maybe has a better chance. Golden State wins against Miami last night. And then you have Minnesota and Houston. I mean, the Jazz are in the 7th playoff spot, but only 3 games early going, only 3 games out of last also. So there's some crazy things still going on. Nobody's winning on the road other than Oklahoma City, who's 5-1 on the road. San Antonio's 0-4. Houston's 1-6. So that's part of that. Breaking down some other parts of this ball game, Devin Harris is a really interesting case for the Jazz right now because he is not shooting the ball well. He's in a colossal slump. But what jumps out in that regard is every scout or coach I've talked to talks about what a nice job he is doing putting the offense together, playing inside the system, and doing the right thing. And so what I think we have last year, Devin didn't do any of that. He looked pretty good. Right now, Devin's doing all the right things. He doesn't look good. But I'd rather have Devin doing what he's doing correctly, all the little things correctly, rather than having Devin playing for himself. Right now he's playing for the team, and he's going to have to just find where he gets his stuff inside of this. Again, this is a broken record, and it's not like I know the game any better than you do, but just calm. Like, there's a progression that takes place. So the progression with Devin Harris right now is that last year he looked pretty good, but he was very selfish. This year he's playing the game the right way, which I'd much rather have. Now let him have some time to figure out what he's going to do next. Let Gordon Hayward have some time to figure out what it's going to be and how he's going to do next. I mean, I got one of the guys who tweets me all the time, is one of the better Twitter guys out there, tweets me, what about Gordon Hayward's regression? Gordon Hayward's regression? You mean like the fact he's actually playing basketball games that matter right now? Like, that's his regression. He played games at the end of the year that didn't matter. And so he put up some decent numbers and he looked good, but his shot is off. There's no question. But there's a lot to his game that's going on right now. Some of it's not good. I mean, he's got to figure out a way to get to the rack and get rid of that ball and get shots in, or else he becomes a completely perimeter shooter, and that's going to be a very hard thing for him to have a good percentage shot in his career. But he also has, in the last 3 games, I believe he has 17 assists in 3 games and 4 turnovers. Find me how many wing players in the NBA are doing that. He needs to rebound better if he's not making shots. He's got to get more. His defensive rebounding rate last year was terrible, and he only had 2 in 20 minutes last night. He's got to be better at that. The shot is the least of my concerns. The 2 things he's got to do a better job of is figuring out when he's going to the rim if there's a way for him to learn how to close it, and then and make that shot. And then the second thing is to rebound. But really, he's really playing pretty well. He's not think about this. He's not hitting his shots, and he's still having a positive impact on the game. There are not a lot of players who can do that. And he's 21. So let's relax on a lot of these guys. But I thought, a lot of good things came out of last night. The defense is really playing well. I haven't seen the updated numbers, and I haven't run my hoop data stuff yet on it. I will later today, so keep an eye out on Twitter, Locked On Sports, Facebook, Locked On Sports. By the way, you can like me on Facebook at David Locke as well. All right, I've kind of rambled, but overall, well fought, a lot of effort. Millsap was fabulous last night. Josh Howard deserves a lot of credit as well in the way he played. The ball moved very, very well. So much progress being made in every regard. Defense was good last night. Really, lots of really good positive things. I'm fired up each and every day that I watch this team play right now, and how they're playing this game, and in approaching games and what Tyrone Corbin's doing. There, if you're a Jazz fan, I think your energy should be very positive. I know everyone likes to bitch and complain, but I think your energy should be very positive. All right, I've babbled for 10 minutes. Let me hit some of the tip-off questions. Let me address one thing. Jimmer Nation doesn't like me. I have never been totally sold on Jimmer as an NBA player, and so that led me to have a lot of heat from that. And I don't think we should be too concerned yet, but there are some things going on. His minutes are diminishing in Sacramento. He did not play the fourth quarter last night. Isaiah Thomas did instead when they came back and beat Toronto. I went and looked through kind of rookies who have shot under 40% in their rookie year and hit about 33 to 34% of their threes. There's a lot of great ones in there. Jason Kidd, Russell Westbrook, a lot of players. The only concern that those guys were all young, 4-year seniors, don't develop. So there's some concern, and the turnover numbers are going up on Jimmer. There's some concern going on there. If you watch it and you see it honestly without your fan hat on, there's some concern. I will continue to – the other one that there's some real concern on is Brandon Knight's not playing well all of a sudden. And people were very concerned about Brandon Knight. Kevin O'Connor, I think, truthfully, it just came down to he wasn't certain whether or not he was a true point guard or not. And I think that is beginning to show a little bit, though, that both those teams, Sacramento and Detroit, are all messed up. All right, questions coming in. Did Hayward forget he knows how to attack the rim? Okay. Hayward's very long stride, so he doesn't get up very well, so his shots are going to get blocked, and he is passing out to pretty good shots. I mean, I'm going to have Ron Boone really dig in on this one with me if I can and talk to him a little bit. I might podcast with Ron today if possible. Why didn't Jazz sub Jefferson for Kanter Favors down the stretch? Jefferson struggled. Yeah, but Jefferson kept Bynum occupied. The only concern I had is I thought Jefferson was getting tired, but those matchups are awfully hard for Favors and Kanter. Next question, of course, why do Favors only get 12 minutes? I think Favors probably got to get more than 12 minutes, but really what you're seeing there is every head coach in the NBA is going to go trust their veterans over their rookies to do the right thing. But I thought that there was maybe a little limited time there for Favors last night because of the amount of time Al had played, and there were just a bunch of balls that bounced off his hands that I thought were signs of fatigue. Keep an eye on this with Kanter, by the way. Watch the way he jumps in the first 4 or 5 minutes he's on the floor, and then watch the way he jumps in the final 2 or 3 minutes in his stretch. He does fatigue. The timeout question, frankly, we got a shot 1 foot away from the rim. It got blocked by Bynum. I actually think here's the way I look at the timeout question. And this is actually somewhat with what Jerry did. This will sound like it's going against what Jerry did, and I don't mean that because you have Stockton on the floor. But then the way I look at the timeout question is if their defense what's better, the Lakers defense or the Jazz offense? And the answer is the Laker defense. So if both get set, the advantage goes to the Lakers. So I don't call that timeout because in a frazzled situation, we're getting the edge because their defense is better than our offense. Now, you better make sure that your guys know that and that's how they're going to play. And, we haven't had a lot of late game situations with Ty, and every time you have another one, as we're watching with every other progression, you're going to get a little better at it. So I would say I don't have a problem with it. That's the way I always view it. If we both call timeout, who has the advantage? I think the Lakers would have had the advantage. We got a shot 1 foot from the rim. It didn't happen. Another Gordon Hayward question. Where do I feel like he is on his progression? So my thought on Gordon's progression is I've said it throughout this whole thing. Defensively, he's ahead of where I thought he'd be. His shot is off right now, but big picture, he wasn't a 50% three-point shooter. If you take his career number right now, which I probably can pull up pretty quickly, I would bet you that it's right on maybe a natural number, and this is, larger sample size. He's now taken 100 threes in his career. He's hit 41. Gosh, if he turns out to be a 41% three-point shooter for his career, that would be fabulous. I don't even know if I think he's that good a three-point shooter. But that, his hot streak at the end of last year, down streak on this side, is probably a lot better sample size. Ironically, by the way, he has now played 82 games of his NBA career. So he started 27, and he's a 47% shooter, 41 from three, and 71 from the free throw line. If he does that for his career, that would be incredible. He's only averaging in that span 6 points a game. And so what is he going to be? And I think at some point he's an 11, 12 point a game guy. He's got to find a way to be a 3 or 4 rebound guy, and he's a 5 or 6 assist guy. And he's a complementary player to better players. That's what you usually are when you're a 12th. If he does that as a 12th pick of a draft, it's a steal. And so I would say he's right on his progression. I don't think he's dramatically behind that progression in any way. We're getting long. These are usually supposed to be about 15 minutes. Do inconsistent players typically become more consistent with age? It's a great question. I don't believe so. What I think is usually happening with inconsistent players is that they just don't dictate their matchup every single night. And so when a player like Rudy Gay is going up against Gordon Hayward, he's going to struggle, whereas when he's going up against Darrell Wright, he's going to be better. Now, the way you become more consistent is when you mature and you dictate more of your matchups would be the answer I would have to that. Final one, I looked at NBA.com, plus minus for 5-man. Hayward's 4 of the top 5. Yeah, I mean, I think he does a lot of other things along the way. Final thing I would just say on all this, and then there was another question about Kanter. Jeff Hornacek made a great point. What we've learned today, I hope you heard him with DJ and PK. If you didn't, go listen to that interview. He made a great point that what we've learned about Kanter is that he is not scared of anything. And I think that's really maybe the most important thing. Phil Johnson pointed that out in some of our shows as well, that this kid just is not fearful in any way. All right, that's a long tip-off. I apologize if I just took too much of your time. Do all those social networking things. Follow me on Facebook, Locked On Sports, and David Locke. Like them. I know it's stupid, but Facebook has ruined itself. We're on Google+. We're on Tumblr. Locked On Jazz is actually going through, this is quiet behind-the-scenes news. Locked On Jazz is going through a revamp and should be up with a new one here at some point. I don't know when, but some point. All right, that's the latest. Okay, bye.